Hello, my fellow North American history students. My video is going to be divided up into two distinct parts. The first part is going to look at the first three questions of our prompt. The second part is going to look at two books that helped me shape my way of thinking about history. So first, for me, history is best explained by the historian Ludwig Wittgenstein, who said that history should travel over a wide region of uses, crisscross in every direction, the same use being approached again and again, each time from a different direction, from a different point of view, from a different use. For me, that's real history because it's taking all of your methodologies and it's saying that they can't stand alone, that they have to work together and crisscross each other in order to create a true three-dimensional picture of a historical event or a historical figure for the individual that's studying that event. That being said, at my heart, I'm a social historian. I love looking at how events were shaped and affected by the people around them. I love looking at how the 15th Amendment impacted women and pushed the 19th Amendment into the Constitution. So that's the approach I took when setting up the two parts of my syllabus. I wanted to have that crisscross effect, that three-dimensional effect within my units of each part of my syllabus, but I wanted social history to remain front and center. So both parts of my syllabus have social history as the broader theme, but within each of the 5 units of each part, there's a direct connection between the events and the figures that I put within those units. For example, the first unit of part 1 of my syllabus talks about the movement of people and the models of settlement. I wanted to look at how the relationship between natives, African American slaves, and Europeans was not only affecting the groups themselves, but how settlement was impacted by their relationships with each other. And so it made a natural fit. And I found in part 1, a lot of my units, it was really easy to set up the way that I wanted. The only change I made in part 1 is I actually put Reconstruction at the end of Unit 5, which is my last unit in part 1. So really my part 1 ends in 1877, not 1865, because as we talked about in this class, Reconstruction doesn't really get its just due. It doesn't really get the respect it's earned, especially on the impact side of things that it's had on this country. So I really wanted to make Reconstruction a focus, and I think the only way to really teach Reconstruction correctly is to tie it directly to the Civil War, and that way students have an understanding of that event. The second part of my syllabus was a little more difficult to put in the units like I wanted to. We talked about how the second half of U.S. history really seems to be big event after big event. World War I, Depression, World War II, Cold War. But for me, I found it was really difficult, actually, to divide the units up the way that I wanted because there's so much to talk about. So, for example, my civil rights piece, I actually changed it from my Cold War America unit. I moved civil rights into my modern America unit because I wanted to tie in modern events back to the civil rights movement and see how the civil rights movement has really impacted us today. But that being said, that change allowed me to develop a great Cold War unit where it's really focused on anti-communist sentiment. So I'm talking about the Red Scare, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, arms race, all of that within my Cold War unit. And I don't have to pause and look at civil rights within that unit. I can just stay focused on an anti-communist feeling within American society. And so that's kind of the approach I took for each part. Keep your methods crisscrossing, keep them interacting with each other, but keep social history at the front. Two books that I want to look at within this survey course, and absolutely I am getting these put into my syllabus. The first one is For Cause and Comrades, written by James McPherson. This is talking about why men fought in the Civil War, and it's using primary sources to really get into the ideologies and the political feelings of not your Abraham Lincolns and your Robert E. Lees, but your average everyday soldier and why they were fighting each other to begin with. And I think that's a great addition to my Civil War unit, is because you are getting a social understanding of why these men are going to war. Not only from a social level, you're using political and intellectual ideas to make that connection. The second book that I'm going to definitely put in part 2 of my syllabus is Age of Contradiction, American Thought and Culture in the 1960s. This book, the main argument is really best described in the start of chapter 7 with a quote from Malcolm X. After the Kennedy assassination, Malcolm X was quoted as saying, "The chickens have come home to roost." And that helps make the entire book's argument, because it puts the 60s in a light where it showed it as a society where violence, or the threat of violence, was used to help keep order in the middle of the Cold War. But violence had also claimed the life of one of the two most important world leaders of the time. So you're taking your political histories and your social histories and you're crisscrossing them, and you're creating a more three-dimensional picture of the 60s. Both of those books absolutely are incredibly true to what I think real history should be. And so they are absolutely going to find a place within my syllabus. Thank you so much for listening to me. Any feedback is appreciated. Best wishes in all of your future classes. If you're graduating this winter, awesome job, you made it. Woohoo! I'll be joining you as a graduate in the spring. Have a good rest of your semester and a good Christmas.